What's up everyone? In this video we're going to create this simple patrolling system. We have an enemy object that moves between 2 points, and of course you can make even more points. It's going to be dynamic. So let's jump into it. So previously we built the hierarchy of the enemy AI, and in this episode we're going to build the walking mechanism or the flying. It depends on the enemy itself. So we've got ourselves the hierarchy of the root, the object of the enemy, which is going to be whatever we want to decide on, eagle, frog, possum, whatever it is, and the waypoints, which is right now is 2. So let's go and create the mechanism. Let's hide this initial. So we got this set up. We're going to use update for this, and we're going to move to next point. I think that's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this every time. I'm going to explain what was going to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the next point transform, right? And flip the enemy transform to face, or net face, to look into the point's direction. And the next thing, third thing will be is move the enemy towards the goal point, which will be the next point. And the last part is check the proximity or the distance between enemy and goal point to trigger next point. So what this means is we're going to check the distance between the enemy at the moment and our next point. If it becomes less than specific value, which is going to be more realistic, that enemy will be almost inside that point, and we're going to jump to the next point. So he's going to move to the next point, which is going to be either next to it, after it, or before it. It depends how many points do we have. I think this is all what we need to do here. So let's start with all this stuff. So right now we've got ourselves the points and the next ID along with the ID value change. Okay. So this one by default should be 0 if I'm mistaken. And one thing I forgot is speed of movement or flying. It just depends, whatever it is. So let's have it public float speed. I'm going to keep it as 2 at the moment. What we're going to do is we're going to create we're going to go and fetch it, transform, and then we're going to call it goal point equals points and goal ID. Okay, wait, was it goal ID? Yeah, next ID. So we're going to get the next ID and use it as an index to fetch the point from the transform list that we have. Okay, and we have to save it in here. And the next thing is we're gonna flip it. So how are we gonna flip it? Let's say we have the enemy in here, right? And our next point, and the enemy is looking this way, and our next point is in here. So I'm gonna check the X value. We don't need the Y, but I'm gonna check the X value. If it's bigger than our X value, so I'm gonna have to flip this, so make it -1, 1, 1. It depends on how it's looking. But if it's smaller, if the point is here, then the X is smaller, so I'm gonna flip the other way. That's simple as that. So it all depends on your object itself. So right now the possum is looking left by default, 1, 1, 1. That means minus makes it right. So I'm gonna go and do this. So I'm gonna go to check if goal point the X transfer the X bigger than transform that X, transform the position that X. So what this means is if the goal point X position is bigger, which is mean on the right side of that thing, we're gonna make transform that local scale equals mu -1, 1, 1. Oh wait, I forgot position here. Okay. Else we're gonna make this 1, 1, 1, not -1. because by default he's looking left with a positive, but if we make it minus, he looks right, which is correct. We've finished the second point. Now third point is we're going to use something called vector2 move towards. So before we do this, we go transfer the position equals vector2 that move towards, and it's going to take three stuff. It's going to take our current position and our target position and something called max distance delta. So that value is going to determine how fast do we need, or how long did we need to reach that point. Okay, so we're going to keep that value static, so it moves in a specific speed. That's it. So let's start with the first one. Transfer the position. Our local position is going to be our enemy position, and our next position is going to be the goal point, right? This goal point, that position, and the speed is going to be speed multiplied by time, the delta time. That's actually everything. So what it does is we change the position according to this one, because this one returns a vector2. Because what it does, it gives you an interloping position between whatever we have here and whatever we have there. So it actually goes steady from, for example, from here till here. We'll see this in action. So next thing is we're going to check for the distance. If vector2, so there's a method called vector2 distance, which calculates the distance between two vector2s. We go with transfer position and goal point that position. Wait, did I? Wait, what? Oh, never mind. So I did some testing before, and I found the proper value is whenever the object reaches almost, exactly that point is 0.3 or something. So I'm going to go ahead and make it safer. So I'm going to go whenever the value of the distance becomes less than 1. That means we're so close to the point, so we can skip to the next point. What we can do in here, check if we are at the end of the, let's say, line, make the change -1. Check if we are at the start of the line, make the change +1. This is exactly what I explained before, and then apply the change on the next ID. Simple as that. So to check if we're at the end, all we have to do is we have to see how many points we have and if our ID has reached the last point. So right now, let's say we have 2 points, right? Which means the first point is 0, the second one is 1. So we're going to check if the next ID equals the count, which is how many stuff, which is going to be 2 minus 1, because in indexing, if it starts from 0, not 1, so we have to make sure that we have to make -1 at the end, so we have proper calculations. So what this means, if the actual next ID equals 1, which is the last one, we flip it. Easy peasy. If next ID equals points that count -1, so that means we reached at the end. So we go with change value equals -1. We can't do else, because else means anything other than this. We're going to create another if. Else, no, actually we're going to go if only, because these are not connected. So in order to see if we're actually at the start, all we have to do is to check if we are at the 0 point. So we're going to go with next ID equals 0. That's it, because 0 is always a starting point. So we make this 1. And after we apply this stuff, we go and make next ID plus equals ID change value. What this means, it means next ID, it means add this to this number. So just for simplicity, I'm going to write it in here. So it means next ID plus ID change value. So whether this is minus or plus, it's going to add to it. But this is a simpler way to write it. So with this, we have this whole thing set up, I hope. And let's delete this one, it's unneeded. So if we go back in here, we need to check before we start moving. Okay, so we got this one in here, which is the first point. It's right here, and the second point is right here. So that's cool. So we got the points reference. So what we have to do right now is we have to move it to the proper position. Never mind this. And we're gonna make the second point here. So we have ourselves 2 points, 2 waypoints, one here and one here. You can add some taggings to it so we can have it look more visible, but we can enhance it later with gizmos, as we learned before. You can check out one of my videos on gizmos. But right now we have this here, point 1.2, and let's save the whole thing. And right now, if I start the game is gonna look towards the fox, because in the camera we have the fox position here. So let's make this as part of the possum. Okay, let's start the game, and hopefully we have everything set up properly. Okay, you see now the possum is moving from here to the first point, and it goes to the second point, and then goes back to the first point, and etc. So it's going to keep doing this endlessly, because that's how we did the ping pong system. If you can see here, the next point is 0. This one, as soon as we reach this point, he goes back to 1. Well, we got ourselves a moving possum. You can do the same thing with this, but let me do one thing here. Let me create another point just for the sake of explanation. Let's say we're gonna have to do more points, right? So let's keep this in here, and for the sake of all things, let's just ignore that it's actually flying. So let's create another point, call it point 3, and let's put it in here. Okay, that's doesn't make sense, but we're gonna do it. As soon as we make a new point, we have to assign it in here in the possum. So right now we have 2 points, so we have to drag and drop this in here. We have to make sure that this one does not have any null values. Okay, so let's start. It's gonna go here, here, and then back. So it goes left, and then goes right. Now it has to go up. Yep, exactly. It's a flying possum. That's that. We need to play with the proximity value, and it's all up to you. I think the most proper way is to have it minus 0.5, say 0.5. I think it's the best one. Other than this, actually, you know what? 0.2, I guess, is the best way. Let's make him a bit faster and see what happens with 3 points. And of course, you can add 5, 6, 11 points, as much as you want. Let's go here, make this 5. Let's just make it slightly faster. It's okay. So we can have the demonstrations more quicker. Moves left, right, flies up, down. Yep, that's it. We got ourselves a moving possum. I'm gonna reset this. I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna make this 2. Make this 2. And we've got ourselves a simple patrolling enemy AI system. And the next episodes, we're gonna learn more about how do we make it more interactable with the player. You know, like whenever we hit it, you lose points. Okay. I hope you liked this one, and if you do, please hit the like and subscribe, and click on the small bell to get our updates. And if you got more questions or feedback, hit the comments below for more stuff, and also join our Discord for more discussion about anything that relates to this video or any other videos. I'm open there for any questions or discussions. Other than this, I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye bye.